What's up there, guys? It is been a while since I've done an update on anything movie related in terms of the Lord of the Rings, but I did want to give out some updates because we have had some pretty big news here in the last couple of days over the weekend about the upcoming movie, The Lord of the Rings: The Hunt for Gollum. So, last big thing that we had kind of heard, Andy Serkis was talking about kind of the plan for when the movie was going to be released, which was going to be looking at like a December 2027 release date, and was going to be a sizable movie for filming, and that they were still very early on. So we didn't have like a ton of information, but now that has changed. As this last weekend, there was a big group. I don't remember what it was. I don't know if it was PAX or what. There's been like a ton of conventions and stuff going on. But at this, there was a big panel featuring Ian McKellen, Elijah Wood, Sean Astin, Dominic Monaghan, Billy Boyd, and John Rhys Davies, all actors in The Lord of the Rings. It is Gandalf, Frodo, Sam, Merry, Pippin, and Gimli. They were all together, to which Ian McKellen, the actor behind Gandalf, stands up and says, I hear there's going to be another movie based in Middle-earth, and it is going to start filming in May. It's going to be directed by Gollum, and it's all about Gollum. Is what it was For the Love of Fantasy fan event is what it was in London. Okay, so Ian McKellen says that, which obviously we all kind of knew about, wasn't a big deal. Until he says, I'll tell you two secrets about the casting. There's a character in the movie called Frodo, and there's a character in the movie called Gandalf. Apart from that, my lips are sealed. So this does give us a ton of information. We know that there is going to be we know that Gandalf and Frodo are going to be in the hunt for Gollum. Exactly what capacity, we aren't sure, but I do want to talk about some of the theories that have come out. And honestly, I think there really is kind of only one major theory that we can really kind of go on. And it's going to be kind of similar to how the events of The Hobbit play out. Basically, my main theory is that this is probably going to be something very similar to how they did The Hobbit, where we had Ian Holm portraying Bilbo in right around the beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring, right before Frodo goes to meet Gandalf at the beginning of the movie there. And in that, we are seeing basically the moments where Bilbo is riding down in the Red Book and riding there and back again. And when it comes to how this is going to go down in the hunt for Gollum, I can imagine it's going to be a pretty similar situation. Now, as we know, Gandalf was a big part in the hunt for Gollum, and I'm not talking about that in the stories from the Gollum game. I'm talking about that as in, that is one of the big things that Gandalf was doing in the moments where he leaves after he tells Frodo to keep it secret and keep it safe. When he gives him the ring in that 12-year period, I think that he was gone, if I'm remembering correctly. Anyways, so Gandalf goes and does that. He spends all of that time looking for Gollum, trying to learn what he can about the ring and try and figure everything out. In the original movies, we don't actually see a lot of that happening. We just get that cool little montage where we get the music and the year 34, 34, all that kind of stuff from Gandalf there. That is the main stuff that we see when it comes to how that explanation of how Gandalf comes to learn about the ring. But in the books, there is a long period of time where Gandalf spends a ton of time looking for Gollum. It's where he gets in contact with Aragorn. Aragorn helps out. And so there is a lot that goes into learning about Gollum before eventually Gollum gets captured by Sauron and is then given the names Shire, Baggins, and then released. And that's where we lead into the Fellowship of the Ring and the rest of the events in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So kind of what I would be anticipating to be like the setup for this and how they're going to be telling this story is this is going to be kind of taking place, the main part of the narration and where that comes from is going to be taking place right before the Fellowship leaves in Rivendell. They have Frodo has already been given the ring. He's getting ready to go. They're all prepping for their journey. And since they were in Rivendell for a good period of time between when Frodo was stabbed on Weathertop, the Council of Elrond, and all of that, Gandalf would take the time while the Fellowship is preparing for their journey to talk to him and tell him the information about the hunt for Gollum, because what he knows is that Gollum is going to be a key part in the ring's life is going to be a big tie to Gollum. And so Gandalf is going to be spending time giving him that information and is going to be teaching him everything that he knows about Gollum, especially for when we encounter Gollum in Moria. You have that conversation between Frodo and Gandalf about him talking about it being a pity that Bilbo didn't kill him and all of that kind of stuff. Because in reality, had Bilbo killed Gollum, a lot of things would have been different. And I might even make a theory video on that. I don't know. I'm not a big theory video person, but hey, we might do that. Who knows? If you guys want that, you guys should support me on Ko-Fi. There's a big bar up here that I'm using just because this is the same thing I use for streaming. But you guys should support me on Ko-Fi. I'm trying to get some medical bills paid up. I'm trying to do a ton of medical things, and I can explain that a little bit more in a different video. But anyway, back to it. Support me on Ko-Fi. All of that to be said, Gandalf will then be teaching Frodo about Gollum, so that way Frodo is as prepared as possible for when inevitably Gollum would become a factor in the fate of the ring. And then we'll probably have it pretty similar, where at the end of the Battle of the Five Armies, we had Gandalf knocking on the door and Bilbo going, "No, thank you. We don't want any more visitors, well wishes, or distant relations." And then instead, you could have it where at the end you have Frodo walking out to begin his journey and to leave Rivendell. That's my theory. I don't know if that's exactly what's going to take place, but that just kind of is what makes the most sense to me. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are down in the comments below. I know I'm spending a ton of time on the webcam here. This is just because I don't really know what else to edit in here, so I'm not going to really spend too much time editing on this. I just am going to put a few things in there for a little bit of help and context into the events of what's going on. But anyways, thank you guys again for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm still very excited for this movie. Let me know what you guys think. Are you excited for the hunt for Gollum? Are you nervous? What do you think is going to happen? Just please, if you do make your comments, please make sure that they are respectful and they are nice. We don't want to be spreading hate here. But with that, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. You are loved, you are valued, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.